good shower. Well, a lot of our showers in a lot of our cities and the hotels, well, you can't do it. So where is the problem? How do we solve it? Well, with us today is Richard Stern, and he's a vice president with the Plymouth Institute for Free Enterprise, which is part of the Advancing American Freedom. Well, Richard, you like good showers too?
I absolutely do. Well, and thank you for having me on to talk about this. It is a critical topic, and it's just one of the many places where some people in government just don't want you to be able to live your life and have a good time.
Well, we haven't run out of water in 4 billion years, and water, I keep telling people, the planet Earth is a living entity. It recycles itself. And you tell us your thoughts of what's going on.
I could not agree more. And, just as an interesting example on this, one of the states that makes it incredibly hard to have a good shower of high water flow rate and high pressure is California. Now, why is this interesting? Because California, of course, we know has a lot of wildfires, and both are for the same reason. They have politicians who don't appreciate what you just said, who don't capture the water, who don't build reservoirs, and actually have created drought situations in California. And that causes problems for agriculture, it causes problems for households and consumers, and it means that they have wildfires that are dangerous, that are deadly, that they can't deal with. But I digress. It's just yet another example of the mismanagement of California. But it's a lot of the states you'd imagine. It's, Massachusetts, it's New York, states like this, that regulate shower water flow rate and water pressure more than even the federal statute that's been around for a decade.
So is this state laws that we have to worry about, federal laws? How do we solve the problem?
So it's actually a mix of both. There's a federal law that dates all the way back to 1992 that began regulating the water pressure and water flow out of showers, but it was a little nebulous on exactly how to put in the regulation. Then about 15 years ago or so, under Obama, they used rulemaking, which is a fancy way of saying unelected bureaucrats did it, that would allow state governments and city governments to go even further than what the federal regulation is. Now, Trump, when he was president the first time, and now again, worked on setting it up so that you could. So the regulation at the federal level was ambiguous as to whether it's regulating each shower head or the shower system. So he signed an order so that the limit is per shower head, so your shower itself can have a lot more water than the federal law would stipulate. But what he's working on right now as well is trying to rein in those states that since Obama have been able to regulate even further than the federal government does. So we need to rein in those states. We need to stop them from, abusing their residents of their own state. But then we really need reform of the federal law to get rid of the regulation altogether.
Understood. And is there a positive move forward? Is this a bipartisan, or is it somebody, some people are really dead set against it? Because the normal person walking around doesn't really know.
Exactly. Well, this tells you exactly how far loony the left has gone on this one. There is a bill that actually passed through the House of Representatives earlier this year with some Democrats on it, supporting it, that would make this positive motion we're talking about. So, to be fair, the overwhelming majority of elected Democrats voted against it, and this is mostly a left-wing thing. Again, it's, environmentalism and trying to preserve this and that. They don't appreciate your exceptionally valid point that we're not going to run out of water, and if you're running out of water in a locality, it's probably because politicians, like I was saying in California, created drought conditions and don't do what they're supposed to do. But it is tragically, while a little bipartisan, it is mostly, left-wing politicians who fight against this.
So where does it stand in Washington?
So the president and the administration are continuing what's called rulemaking, which is to try to do what they can at the executive order level, again, to free up the regulations to lessen their impact. Again, like I said, having the flow rate cap apply per head on a shower as opposed to the whole plumbing system. And they're trying to see what they can do about doing that to also rein in what state governments can do. But ultimately, you would need the Senate to really act on the bill and to act on legislation that would completely free up the president's hands. Now, for those of you keeping
So it goes back
home,
to the 60 votes in the Senate.
Bingo. And that's exactly where I was going to go is, for those of you keeping score at home, you can't, a simple majority in the Senate isn't sufficient. So that's where the holdup is at the moment.
Understood. Well, would you keep us informed? Because we want to take a good shower, and I feel good when that comes down, that shower comes down and massages my scalp. I feel good about it. And well, Richard Stern, thank you so much for filling us in and keeping us up to date. And we'll catch up with you again real soon.
No, of course, and I couldn't agree with you more. And that's part of what we're here for. And again, it's important to remember that a lot of times government politicians, they're just looking for ways to make your life harder so they can try to sell votes for it. But thank you for having me on today to talk about this.